Welcome to Shh the Talk Show Season 3. If you believe in the conversations we're trying to create here, please subscribe to our channels as that will help us get more reach. If you watch the YouTube pre-roll ads before this episode in completion, that also helps us to make a little bit of money that help us to go a long way. Our show is now available in 3 languages, so you can click on your subtitle of choice, whether it's Sinhala, Tamil or English. You can follow this conversation wherever you are in Sri Lanka. And we also welcome you to continue these taboo conversations with us on our social media, which is Facebook, Instagram and Twitter, and also our blog posts coming out and our articles in the Sunday morning newspaper. Enjoy the show. We are shooting at Cafe Nuga in Colombo 3. Nice chilled out space. We're very grateful that they allowed us to use it for this conversation. If anything, just come to Cafe Nuga to try out their cheese toast. It's really nice. And we're going to be talking about a subject that I've wanted to do since season 1. And I think it's something that's very relevant to Sri Lankan society, which is toxic relationships. And when I say toxic relationships, I'd like to talk today about the issues that sometimes we have normalized so much in our country, amongst our families and amongst our friends, that when it comes to toxic relationships, it's not just about intimate relationships, intimate partner relationships. It's not just when you're in a romantic situation that things can get toxic, but relationships between parents and children, relationships amongst friends, toxicism, narcissism, Stockholm syndrome, trauma bonding. This is all stuff that happens to almost everyone I know for some reason when I have these conversations with my friends. I am grateful to Ayesha, who I know her story, and I'm leaving it to her to tell you what she wants to tell you about it. And Ayesha is going to take you through one side of toxic relationships that she has experienced. And then I have Hans over here, and Hans is actually going to do a very important job for us here. Hans is going to speak for the guys, because I think when it comes to toxic relationships, men don't speak out. And a lot of the time in Sri Lanka, we don't acknowledge the fact that boys go through shit as well, right?
Yeah, so I've gone through all types of toxic relationships. So let me talk about my my marriage. I was into this very long-term marriage where I was.
Did you date him before marrying? Or?
No, it wasn't.
Yeah.
It was a proposal. So I haven't dated any guy before I was proposed to this marriage, because I got married at the age of 19 plus, just after leaving college. And of course, there were a lot of date requests and all that, but I never wanted to. I was so focused, and I wanted to focus on my school life, my academic life and my schools.
But were you also in in a family situation where you were not allowed to date, or could you have dated if you wanted to?
No, not really, because the thing is, wherever I went, there were I know that I was being checked and followed, and
My family.
by family. So my relationship with my family, especially the men in my family, was really solid. When it comes to the females in my family, the ladies, I was very close to my grandmother. So because she raised me up, and all my other siblings and cousins. And so the thing is, they just wanted to see me having a secure future, okay, get married and then do whatever you want, if that person is okay with that. So before I got married, since I had no choice other than getting married, I asked him, I said that I have 3 conditions. One is that I don't want to get pregnant, because I've seen so many people missing out so many opportunities, getting married and having children then and there, and they miss it, right? Especially at the age of 20. And then I said, I don't want to have children until I was ready. And second condition was that I will pick the profession that I want to do, because Shanuki, I was only 20.
Yeah.
I haven't even figured out what I wanted to do. And thirdly, that I will never be a doormat. You can't expect me to be cooking and cleaning, just basically doing the housemaid work at home. And be in the kitchen 24 hours, like, you know, the people he knows. So those are my conditions.
What did he say at that one?
He was okay. He was okay. So the first thing we did was, I went to the Family Planning Association. So going to Family Planning Association. When my family found out about it, they were shocked. They were like, how dare? No, people need to know this, because you know, they were shocked. They were like, how could you? How? You know, why are you taking this? Don't you know that, you know, it may cause cancer, this and that? And
For birth control.
for birth control. Because I was very conscious about it, because I clearly didn't want to get pregnant, right? Anyway, so then I got married, and then I went to started studying. I started working and going to uni, doing my sports. I did everything that I wanted to do. So during the second year, I was getting the pressure. Oh, if you don't get married, if you don't have kids now, you will be barren for life. Because there are barren women around your family, in your family, and you see them every day, like you see them face to face every day. So just because you see them face to face every day, and also because of the fact that they are in your family, there is a tendency for you to be barren as well, right? So that pressure was there, it was coming.
So weird.
So I wasn't prepared for that at all. So I conceived my daughter in my final semester in uni, and I didn't even know I was pregnant. I got the shock of my life. I went to my gyno. He was the most supportive gyno that I could ever have. And luckily, to my luck, or I don't know what, the baby came out just as I finished uni. And then I still wanted to study Shanuki. I didn't give up. I just continued. I immediately started my master's. I was continuing with my work. So then there were obviously like lots of pressure again, right? Lots of pressure, and then I got a lot of opportunities, but I even got a call to do my PhD, and which I purposely postponed and spend more time with my baby, with my first child. So we were bonding very well, and then my marriage wasn't working out at all. So because we were two different, completely different personalities from two different social backgrounds, total opposites. Before I got married, I was told by so many people, why are you getting married? Why? Even on my wedding day, there were so many of my cousins who flew down, and they were so shocked. They were like, why? Why are you getting married now? You have so much potential, so many things to achieve. Why? It's always about the family, like nothing personal, as in even when it comes for the food or day-to-day activities, it always revolved around the families. And I was insulted, humiliated, and
His family or your family?
not the family is here. It's him.
Okay.
So it's him. It's always him.
Okay.
It had nothing to do with the families, but like always, you know, you just got me. Good that you got someone like me. So I was always addressed like that. That's the way I was spoken to, right? උඹට හොඳයි මම වගේ නිකම් මිනිහෙක් හම්බ වෙච්ච එක හින්දා මම වගේ මේ මම වගේ අයව හොයනවා. ඔයාගේ ෆැමිලි එකේ අනිත් කසින්ස්ලාට මම වගේ අය කෙනෙක්ව බඳින්න හොයනවා. මේ හොඳයි මම වගේ කෙනෙක්ව හම්බ වෙන එක. ඔබ බඳලා එනකොට මොනවාද ගෙනා? right මොනවාද ගෙනා?
Like the dowry.
Shanti, we were living in my house,
Okay.
right? The house that my parents built for me. He kept telling me, you know, no one gave him anything. Like, no one gave him anything.
Okay.
Right? So whatever I got, it was for me. So he wasn't given anything by my family.
So that was your fault?
Well, according to my, I will not like to bring my religion here, but still, according to my religion, there is, okay, not only the religion, I believe as a person, as an educated person, that a man should never ask for the dowry from a woman or a woman's family. And I wasn't depending on anyone. My parents built the house for me, a fully furnished house, and I had my education. I was at the age of 20, even before I got married, I had it all, right? And then, true, I would have got the support for my education, and then even then I was harassed by saying, "You're studying because of me," right? I was for more than 2 days. I was locked in my own house. I was locked up in a room, not letting me go to uni, simply because I had to get pregnant, right? And because I had to have a child. And that pressure, he was getting the pressure
From
his
the family.
right? And so anyway, I continued. And so he was mainly saying, why, what did you bring? Good that you got a guy like me, you know, things like that. So then we realized and knew that we are two different personalities. This is why I always think, even before my marriage, I always believed that compatibility is a must.
Yeah.
Marriage is something, you know, where there has to be mutual love, mutual respect, and mutual compatibility. And it has to be a partnership where both should complement each other. Whenever there are, like, it's like overshadowing each other. I have lots of positive and negative traits. My partner will have lots of positive and negative traits. So we identify the positive traits and try to correct the negative ones. So it never happened. Because our mindsets were different, like completely different thinking, but in any marriage, in any relationship, in any partnership, it will always be two different people with two different mindsets. But when there is no bonding, it's not the sex, it's not just the sex, that emotional bonding, if there's nothing in common between the two partners, it won't be fruitful at all.
Yeah. And you can relate to that, right? Because you have
Yes.
past relationships where you learned that lesson.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Because,
You want to take us through?
Been in a couple of relationships in my past, and see, not all of them they start up like really beautifully. Everything is like it's like a bit of roses in the beginning, but later on with time it reveals the actual person that you've been. So I've been with a couple of people in my past that have actually shown me the good side of them only in the beginning, and later on when like something happens, like a switch just flips and they just go out. They just become a totally different person. It's like split personalities or something.
Okay. So that's like, have you seen a pattern of that with your partners, or
Well,
is
yeah, because I was in a pattern because I was also pretty young and stupid.
yeah. I think we all go through that phase
And
anyway.
I've like made impulse decisions when
Yeah.
it comes to relationships
Yeah.
in the past. So it's also my own mistake sometimes to like jump into a relationship. without actually getting to know the person.
Yeah.
But also I've been in a relationship with someone that I've been knowing for like 2 years and then got into a relationship with and still couldn't know
Yeah,
the
yeah.
other side of the
that's
person. So it's like a lot of manipulation, selfishness. Those are things that actually come up, and like you said, like if you're not compatible, it's always going to be toxic.
Yeah.
Like it might not only be from one person, it might be toxic from both people to each other as well.
Yeah.
Because you don't realize it because you're thinking about your emotions, but you're not sure about the next person's emotions.
Yeah.
So clearly, I agreed on when you said like compatibility. That's something that is a must.
So, like, what sort of things did you experience? Like, when you say switch, what does that mean?
The people who act like they're gonna love you forever and like don't do anything to you, just like out of nowhere, they just like begin to throw stuff at you for no reason, right?
Right.
Just because they are annoyed by something that happened to them in the day,
Okay.
and then they take it out on you. It's like I did something wrong, something. Yeah.
That's what some
So-
romantic women you have been with.
Well,
Yeah.
if that's a way you can put it. So
No, I'm not validating it at all, right? I'm not dismissing it.
Like, by those things happening to me, I have been toxic as well because there's been angers within me that has been aroused by people, and then they don't realize this. Like, what you don't realize is sometimes you start the fire, and when the forest starts burning, you start to complain and blame the forest
Yeah.
about catching fire. You don't realize that
You're the one.
you're the one who actually lit it up. So, also, I'm not trying to say that me getting angry at the person was justifiable.
Yeah.
It was also wrong because I also need to be patient, and that's something that you always need with a partner. But also, you need to realize that sometimes you get a reaction because of one of your actions, because your action always has a similar opposite reaction to it.
Yeah.
I've actually left a job when I was in Geneva. I was working for Sri Lankan embassy to the United Nations.
Wow.
And I actually came back before my term because of one of my exes, and because she actually,
She didn't want you working there?
it's also a long distance, and also because I got another job at the American embassy in Geneva,
Yeah.
and I was actually supposed to go through like military training for protection work, and the fact that I had to use a Glock as my job description,
Yeah.
she had spoken to my mom and kind of pulled a bucket on it.
Oh, wow.
And then my mom was like, "No, you're not going to do a job that requires you to use a Glock and everything."
What,
because
the gun?
Glock is
Yeah,
it's
the
a
gun.
pistol.
Yeah.
So,
Okay. So,
And
auntie here doesn't know what that means. Okay.
so my mom got triggered by that, and then she was like, "No, you're coming back." I had to say that I wasn't happy with the job and everything, and I had to come back. So after I came back, the relationship started getting way more toxic after, and like always arguments, fights with that particular ex of mine, and I actually started getting high blood pressure. I'm 25 now.
Yeah, that's.
I was 23 back then,
Yeah.
and a 23-year-old getting high blood pressure is like that's like something really new to me. And like I'm a person who likes to stay fit all the time, and for that to happen to me, I knew there was something wrong somewhere. I just didn't realize that it was the relationship. Not to say that she's a bad person, but like she's a nice person on her own. Like she's a really nice person. It's just that compatibility, that problem that arose there.
Really, like that toxicity, it affects you
Yeah.
in such a way, because generally, like those who know me, my friends, my circle, they know me, right? And I have never shown them whatever that I went through, especially to my friends. I haven't even discussed it. But later I figured out that it affected my work, like where I worked, I mean my work surroundings, and because when I'm under so much pressure and tension, it affects my day-to-day lifestyle,
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
interaction with my work colleagues, with my students, with my, with so many people. Your friends who have known you for over 20 years, they know that, oh, she's this. She has always been this. She has always been this upfront, outspoken, ambitious, committed, conscientious, hardworking workaholic. But this relationship had drastically
drastically made a very, very negative impact on me, not only on me, even on my kids.
Yeah.
Because they see that every day in my household, and they wonder, okay, why is this happening? Like, they can't even think, right? Even especially my daughter, she's like, Mama, let's do this, let's do that. So only now, like, we can both peacefully, openly converse and see how we got our fit, Shanavi, and you helped me a lot with that. But it's now like a newfound freedom for us, like to breathe the fresh air. And like my friends say, you're blooming, Asha. You're back. It's as if I have been given,
Yeah.
I have been born again.
Did you find that the way you looked at, or were you scared to get into a relationship again after that experience? Or
Well, there's always fear after a very bad experience
Yeah.
getting in a relationship, and like you tend to like build up walls around you, even though
Yeah.
you are in a relationship.
Yeah, you can't
And,
trust.
Like the other people try to tag down to get closer to you, to get to know you, but then again you keep on putting up a brick by brick on top of it just to make sure that you don't get hurt, but you don't realize that you're hurting that person by that as well.
Yeah.
So like, the advice that I could actually give a person before they get into a relationship, after a toxic relationship or anything, first heal. Just heal. You can't get into a relationship just because you're lonely. You need to get into a relationship when you're ready. You're only ready when you are healed. And if you're not healed by your past experiences, it could be from your parents, it could be from a childhood friend, it could be from a relative or whatever. Like you could be damaged by anyone around you, and you could be holding on to it. You don't even realize that it's inside of you, but it's like rooted down into your soul that so much that there are traits that come out of it that's not you, but it's because of that experience that you had and you don't even realize that you're still holding on to it.
And it's not easy to heal on your own.
Yes.
once. So that's when you need people who get you,
Yeah.
who can understand, to whom you can talk without any judgments.
Yeah.
So, like, okay, thank you for saying that, because now in my experience also, I'm very familiar with toxicity, right? And I've been like through different kinds of relationships, and I think one of my earliest relationships was an extremely toxic one. And we're naive, right? Because in this country, we don't educate our young people about what's toxic and what's not. A lot of the time, we grow up in toxic homes, right? There's so much of narcissism. There's so much of kids having to be conditioned to feel permanently obligated to somebody who is providing for you. You are not allowed to sort of have your own voice or personality. And this thing of narcissism is where the person you love and you live with makes you feel guilty about everything that, they get angry or they get annoyed or something. It's always your fault. So you start thinking it's my fault, right? And from that, you go into relationships without this understanding, because it's so normalized that you get into relationships also where you have that same kind of narcissism and you have that same self-blame that you put yourself through. And then I've been in that kind of relationship where everything that was negative, that I didn't like, that happened to me, that I didn't agree with as much as I had a big mouth, I went along with, because I thought that's the way. Because that is how I had sort of understood this is a relationship, and the female's role, and in this case it was a female's role, has to be subservient,
That's the
right?
thing. And I would like to have totally relatable experiences with that.
Yeah.
So having said that, my family already, I was married to a family person who was within my family. So I was put restrictions as to, not about going and meeting my friends, meeting my own family. My family who found a person to take really good care of me and provide a good living, blah, blah, blah. So he was conditioning me and telling me, putting restrictions and rules and regulations to me, saying that I can't go and meet my own family, my own parents, my grandmother who brought me up, my uncles, aunts, my cousins. So my daughter has seen all this, and she would ask, Mama, Why do we have to go only to these functions where we don't even know people? There are thousands of people come. We just go there. We just dress up, go there and sit and wait, not knowing anyone, and we just eat and come. Whereas I don't get to see my aunts and uncles. I don't. We meet often. They meet often. They always have gatherings and reunions. I don't get to see them, Mama. Why? So this was my child who was 8 or 9 or 10-year-old asking me.
No, I can relate to that as well. So, like I said, when I was in a toxic relationship and it was a long-term relationship, but my friends used to ask me, like, why have you've changed so much? You're so scared. When he's around, you don't talk, because I'm a kata petiya, but when he was around, like a mouse, I'd never correct him because he would get annoyed and I wouldn't want to, piss him off. And so there was a lot of sort of I would say hesitation for me to be myself, and then also I allowed him to take certain decisions about what I would do in my life, how I would go forward in my life, and there was a lot of power, and that I think is what toxic relationships is. As much as it's about incompatibility, it's also a power play. And I think that also although we don't talk about it, women can be toxic like that as well. And that's like, now for instance, I've seen now with kind of the experiences and the relationships I've had, I feel like I've grown in a certain way to look at relationships very maturely. But then I get a comment from men like, you don't care, like you're not bothered about where I'm going or what I'm doing, like why don't you want to check my phone? I'm like, I don't. It's your life, it's your phone, you do you, I'll do me. But in Sri Lanka, we tend to look at it as, oh, she doesn't care because she's not in his face checking on every move he makes.
Talk about it, like I've had experiences with my exes where they just take my phone, they want to take a call, but like they're on the phone for like an hour and I'm like, what are you doing on my phone?
Going through the phone.
What are you doing? Like, are you taking a call for an hour or something on my phone? And they just go through like my Instagram messages, my WhatsApp messages, my Facebook messages. I'm like,
no, but they don't realize that they're toxic, and when you bring that up, when you call it out, it's like, it's because I care. It's not because you care, it's because you can't trust each other.
Because you're insecure about
Yeah.
yourself.
Insecure, definitely insecure.
A lot of insecurity.
And, like, so when I was in those relationships, I was very open about even the password on my phone, because like I had nothing to hide.
Yeah.
Because, I'm not the kind of person who goes around with multiple women or anything. So I had no issue. Because it was so normal that when you were checking my phone as well, like I was like,
Yeah.
okay, it's a normal thing, but
So
no,
normal
it's
people
not
don't-
normal.
It's
Normal
not,
people-
and it shouldn't be made normal.
Shouldn't
That's
be
what I was
normal.
going to say. Normal people don't check
Yeah.
phones, even
So
if they.
the thing is,
like
now
that.
in our country, in our society, and in our culture, it has become so normal that you need to like do that.
And you
Like,
need to like tell them where you're going. I mean,
Yeah.
I get that, okay,
so
they
possessive
care
at
about
that
you, and
moment.
you, out of respect to each other, you're sharing
Yes.
a life. So yes,
No,
let
that is
each other
fine.
know what's going
Yeah.
on with your life.
being
That's
open about what
fine.
you're doing is one thing, but then again, the other person like trying to always poke in and find out what to do. Like, okay, but what do you do now?
And then-
where do you go now?
Then
Where are
turning
you
it
now?
on you
Yeah,
when there's an
like-
issue, right?
like-
It's your fault. It's
Yeah,
your fault. It's your fault.
You don't want to tell me this. You don't want to do this. You don't want to do that. Well, yeah. Sometimes when I'm with my friends that you don't like, but I like them because they are my friends. I like hanging out
Yeah,
with them because they understand me. But you don't like them. But when you find out that I was with them, then you turn it on me and make me
Yeah.
feel so guilty that I was hanging out with them. So obviously, I wouldn't like to tell you at that time that I'm hanging out with these friends.
I have to admit, I have done that.
Yeah.
I have done that to people I've been in a relationship, which now I know was unfair, but
Yeah.
I didn't like the people they were hanging out with, and I used to get all sulky and bitchy, and and that was very toxic of me, and I have no problem in attesting to that. And I think this narcissism, when we get too insecure,
Yeah.
That comes as
and
a
when we
result
can't
of
trust,
insecure.
we want control,
Yes.
because it
Yes.
gives our ego a boost to know, okay, this person has conformed to the way we want them to be, and if they're not, we get all, and then we say it's because we love them,
Yeah.
and then we
also-
make
like-
them feel
Yeah.
like
It's
they are doing wrong if they don't get with
It's
it.
like we're hurting them.
Yeah.
Definitely.
There is also a very clear sign of narcissism is because psychologically, this is what narcissists do, and sometimes they are kind of wired to be that way. They don't call themselves narcissists, they don't recognize it in themselves. But this thing of isolating your partner or your loved one from their friends or from their family, and then in the early years of your relationship, you are in love and all that, so you do voluntarily sometimes give up people in your life to make this person happy. Later on, you're kind of in a trap situation where you don't want to make the partner angry, you don't want to cause scenes. So yeah,
You realize even though voluntary doing it, you're doing something wrong.
you are doing something wrong because you should not be taken away from
You
it.
yourself has gotten used to like
this is what I'm
trapping
saying.
yourself in a situation.
Definitely.
I don't see why one partner has to compromise if the other partner is not going to as well, right? And unwillingly compromise. And yeah, so narcissism, one of the signs is isolating. The other sign is making you feel guilty whenever something goes wrong. Putting themselves in a position of power where sometimes what narcissists do is they do give you the silent treatment until you apologize.
Yeah.
You know, so they kind of ignore you, or it's kind of this thing where it's that psychological thing of giving you a treat if you do what they want, taking
It's
it
like
away if you don't.
It's like a training a puppy or something.
Yeah, it is. So they will be angry, moody, sulky if you're not who they want you to be. And then you get apologetic and then you give of yourself to them and then everything's good again. And this actually, but something that I find interesting is there are people who actually also like being in toxic situations.
Oh my God,
The
yes.
Stockholm
I can
syndrome
so
thing.
relate.
I mean, there are women and men who enjoy being
Yeah.
it's really weird.
I'm guilty of it as well. Like
Yeah?
when my exes, like because they're always like hovering over me in my past, and they're like want to check like where I am, what I'm doing, and all stuff. I can't even go missing for like 15 minutes. They're like, where do you go? And I'm like,
That's not
Yeah.
that's not okay.
It's not healthy.
and after like I've gotten like so used to it. Like when they don't do it, I'm like, okay, they don't care about me.
Yeah, so
And,
now
like,
I get
see-
that a
see-
lot.
See, that's you being toxic to your own self then,
Yeah.
because you're not even realizing that you're just getting used to something that is not something normal.
Yeah.
And like you really don't realize it. It just happens naturally because like that is the new normal for you at that point, and you're like, if that doesn't happen, that means the person doesn't care. But no, that's not because the person doesn't care.
Yeah.
It's because the person is just like given up at that point of trying to make you the person that they want you to be.
Yeah. And do you know about trauma bonding? I've told you about this, right? Have you experienced trauma bonding?
Definitely. So again, my second child was also a forced pregnancy. So
Forced pregnancy.
Yes.
I like the way you put that.
both my well, I always wanted to be a mother, but at my own free will, when I'm ready for it, and but not to be forced, right? So first child was yes forced. Second child was like it was being more forced because I was told that you have to have a son this time. You have to have a son. So I need a son. Our marriage is not going well. I'll take the son. You give me the son. I'll take the son and go.
What?
We can have our own way. Okay. So I refused because that was the time where I wanted to, like I was, career-wise, I wanted to, make some developments and some progress, and I was at the peak of it. But again, I was
Trying to control your independence.
definitely.
Yeah.
So I was pregnant anyway, and that entire 9 months, I was pulling the cart all by myself. I was all on my own with my child, and I was doing everything on my own. Well, of course, family was there, but I was living on my own. I did everything on my own. I went to labor alone. I did everything. So, and then after that, I was not allowed to attend any of my family events.
Okay.
My own brother's wedding. I was brought up with, like I said, I'm very close to the men in my family. My father figure roles. So I was brought up by 7 gentlemen in my family. And they have never controlled me. They have never ever controlled me. They have given me the independence. They have let me do anything that I want. It's just that They just wanted me to be safe, so they didn't. Obviously, that's why
They were concerned.
they were concerned, and they would just send people to check if I was
Tissue?
okay. If
Do you need to take a break?
No, I'm fine.
Okay.
If I was okay, just to make sure that if I was okay, not that I was like they were thinking that I would run away with anyone. No. They were just checking that I was fine and safe. So those 7 men have never ever made me plead or beg or do those kind of stuff, right? So being the woman I am, that was the very first and the last time that I had to plead in front of a man, a narcissistic man, because I was so desperate to attend my brother's wedding, my only brother's wedding. And
If you want to take a break, we
no,
can.
I'm fine at all. So that was the first time, the very last time I had to do it. I have never ever done it, but I had to do it because I was so desperate to go. And yes, I went. I was told, but a night. So this was how I was addressed. Bang, you know. This is how I was always called. But ගියාට නැගිටින්නේ මගේ ළඟ වාඩි වෙලා ඉන්න. නැගිටින්න බෑ මට. ළඟ වාඩි වෙලා ඉන්නෝනේ කාත් එක්කවත් කතා කරන්න. So I missed well, I was supposed to do I was in charge, right? Because we had these pump rituals and things to do. We went late. I missed everything. I walked in just as the couple was coming to cut the cake. And then I said, okay, fine, at least let me talk. I said, I don't prepare speeches, I'm good at speaking, so just let me talk, let me say something. Because it's my only brother, and I have to share with all these people, you know, about our childhood and everything. He didn't let me do that. He just didn't let me do that. So after the wedding, we didn't wait for long, we just stayed for a few minutes and then we came back and he said, you don't have a family. You don't have a family. I am your family. My family is your family. From now onwards, you can't visit anyone. You can't visit your family, not the friends, because he knows that he can never stop that. I mean, there's nothing for him to stop because he goes out with his friends and I go out with my friends. So it was very difficult for me. Luckily the kids were very small. I just had a newly born baby. That was the time I should have walked out of the toxic relationship, but that was trauma bonding. Exactly the night after my brother's wedding was definitely trauma bonding, because I was thinking, yeah, everyone said, see, you had a job, you were fully secure. Why did you leave? Why did you leave? You should have. Even until now, people say, you should have. Look, Shanuki and Hans, people can say, you know, it's you who is going through that experience. We know. People can say, you know, you should have done that. You should have, you should know, you're a woman. You know, you are the woman. You are the woman. So you should know how to, how to butter him up. You should know. My own family, even they knew the shit that I went through. They told me, they have advised me, instead of getting me out of this mess, they have told me, no, do the trauma bonding. Do it. He is your husband, he is Mother God, but that whatever the figure, your husband. You should, as a woman, you should know how to make peace. But it's not that. It's just not that, because it has always been toxic. It has always been narcissism. It has always been self-centered, egoism at its fullest peak. at its fullest peak. Even my friends, my childhood friends, නෑ මම කැමති නෑ යාට. You know, මේ එයා මම බඩ කැමති නෑ. වාගේ යාළුවෙක් නිකන් බොරු යාළුවෝ තමයි ඉන්නේ. You know?
Some people are like frogs in a pond and they don't know what life is like out of the pond.
Yeah.
So they don't have the social education that they need.
Social education is a must.
So what they do is they try to drag you into the same pond and keep you within
Yeah.
and not let you explore your own life.
Yeah.
Not like you're gonna do something wrong or not like you're gonna let them down or hurt them or anything. That's not your intention.
Yeah.
But they think that's what you're gonna do.
Yeah.
Because they are so confined in their own space, in their own thoughts, in their own their own rituals or whatever the hell they call it.
And do you find that, okay, so you're going out with someone, to you it's not compatible, you're not happy, but everybody says, oh, but it's a good thing, at least you have someone.
Yeah, they're like
We make
you're
that-
all so cute together now something.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
yeah.
yes.
And we also tend to do that, at least we have
And
someone.
it's so funny, every time we have these problems, and the Facebook profile picture goes, oh, a very happily married, very happily married family. So you make people believe
Everything's okay.
everything is fine. That Facebook profile picture says it all. We're the perfect family. There's nothing happening. I mean, I treat her like a piece of shit, but voila, we are fine in the Facebook.
But I think, as you also said, that thing of we don't want to be lonely. We want to feel like there is somebody. So sometimes a lot of us, we tend to compromise
Yeah.
on what might be right for us. And I think as we go through toxic relationships, and I've been in toxic relationships and I've been in very fulfilling relationships, where then my family was toxic about it and that created stress, So it is like weird. But then you come to this point where you develop, like you said, major trust issues because you see red flags everywhere. Everything is a red flag.
Yes.
Like, oh, this person called me this. I'm not going to get into
You start
anything.
to pay attention
Yeah.
to so many details, so small details.
And do you think we become hypersensitive then to
Yeah,
it?
we do. You definitely
Is that a
do.
good thing or a bad thing?
It's a good thing and a bad thing both at the same time.
Yeah.
Because it can be a good thing to keep you away from toxic relationships, and also could be a bad thing because you be judging
like-
a person that would be actually good for you.
Yeah, and you said, you don't
'Cause-
open yourself
Yeah,
up.
because not everyone's perfect, right?
Yeah.
Everyone's gonna have their bad traits and the good traits. But the person who could have the exact traits that you actually need as a partner in your life could have the bad trait, and you would only look at that,
Yeah,
and you start pushing those people away.
yeah.
So you'll be pushing
Because you're scared.
Yeah,
You
'cause
don't
you're
want to
scared.
get
You
it.
just don't want to get hurt, and like that one small red flag could actually take that person that was supposed to be in your life, supposed to make your life so amazing, and you're just going to kick them out of the door. So it's okay to be hypersensitive about things, and look at things and always pay attention to detail. But that also can be a toxic trait of yours.
Yeah, yeah.
There's people that actually have these toxic traits, these narcissistic traits, and all these things that are not good for a person to actually have. I believe they come from their upbringing as a person, from their childhood.
Yeah.
It's things that are instilled in them.
Yeah.
So that's why I told you, like, you need to heal from the things that
And you
been
need
taught.
to self-reflect and
Yes.
understand
And
what is it
Because
that
your mind is cluttered with only that. So you cannot learn something good for you if you're not unlearn the thing that has been taught you, which is not good.
not good for you. So there are two very important people in my life who I have watched for a very long time living in a toxic marriage. And I have watched one partner continuously putting the other partner down. I mean, throughout their life, in public, in family circles, calling the person names or just belittling that person, and so much so that the other partner, their self-worth, their self-belief has reduced to such an extent where they just allow it. It's like almost they've numbed to the fact that they're even hurt by it. There's been tears and tears and tears, and then you just numb and then you just let it go.
Just
Yeah,
out of their own
and then you
image.
have the first partner then cheating, things like that. There's a lot of cheating, there's a lot of emotional abuse, and that again is turned around by the narcissist on the victim, saying, oh, it's because you're not like this, that's why I'm cheating. You know, even when the person is found out, it's because you don't do this, that's why I'm going elsewhere. And that again, you get the victim just accepting and then sometimes just numbing to it, but they choose to stay together. And I've asked the victimized partners several times, why the hell don't you just leave? And I will support you if you do. It's like, where am I going to go? What's going to happen? And it's a very sad thing to watch. And I think a lot of my views on relationships is colored by watching these kinds of things happening around me. And I'm like, I never want to be in that kind of situation.
And then also, Shanuki, like people say, okay, people keep asking, why don't you leave? Why don't you leave? So they ask, and then
It's not as easy.
not only it's not that easy, and also result of the trauma bonding is because when you are constantly being said, who is going to marry you next? Who is going to marry your daughter? What will the society say? You know, so I'm so glad that the younger generation that I know, you know, are more open-minded, and we are educating them.
And hopefully these conversations happen more so that they know.
We need to have more and more conversation and educate the younger generation so that they will never look back to make that choice.
Yeah.
Because in the years to come, it's always already happening. People won't take shit from anyone. So that has to be like that. I have told that to my daughter, I have told that to my son, and I'm telling that to anyone who will ask me not to take shit from anyone. You don't have to keep yourself on fire just because you want to make someone else warm.
I mean, talk to your partner, talk to whoever you are in a relationship with, whether it's parent and child, whether it's friends, or whether it's intimate partners. Have conversations with each other. Be open about how you feel, how they make you feel, how you might be making them feel. And if you find that you cannot have these conversations because you're scared of losing the relationship or
Definitely
ticking
not
the
the right
person
person.
up, you're not in the right relationship. No.